As long as that took, I'm a little surprised. It's one of the better briskets I've made, really. It's Friday night. It's been a long work week. Kids have been in bed for hours. The wife, she turned in not too long after that. This is the time we start our quest for the perfect brisket. And for me, that's what great barbecue is really all about, trying to achieve that perfect brisket or those perfect ribs. And today we're doing brisket. Got a nice 15-pound Packer brisket from Costco. We're gonna be smoking on the Recteq 700. And I'm gonna give you everything I got to help you get there. And I think perfection really starts with choosing a great cut of meat. And we're using a nice Packer brisket, prime grade from Costco. The only bad brisket I've ever made was not prime, it was choice. So don't make that mistake at home. We're gonna trim this up beautifully, get a nice bold rub on it, and use some techniques on the Recteq 700 behind me that I wish I would have used on my first brisket that came out, you know, it was okay. We're setting the bar a little higher tonight. And I think a real important part of trying to achieve this perfect brisket is our setup on the smoker tonight. What I've found is that the heat shield, you know, is pretty close to the brisket if you put the brisket right on the grill grate. And you get a lot of radiant heat coming off that, which kind of makes the bottom of the brisket dry from previous experience. So we're putting a big sheet pan there and we're elevating the grill grate. I just used a grill grate that I had from a green egg, and it's propped up a few inches over the sheet pan. And we're gonna pour a couple beers right in the tray. And this is gonna serve as a nice little heat shield, a little moisture touching that brisket as it gets started, and then the brisket will drip down into that and provide its own moisture from there. But I feel this is gonna be an ideal setup to give us a nice juicy brisket by tomorrow. So we got a great setup on the smoker, got a bunch of hickory pellets in the big hopper back there. And now we're gonna go ahead and fire this baby up and get it rocking at 225 degrees. And we're just gonna trim this real simply, taking off excess fat. We got big hard pieces, we're gonna take those off. And I'm not too concerned about leaving a lot of fat here up at the point, the thicker part of the brisket. That's plenty of fat in there, but we wanna make sure we leave a little more than I trimmed last time when I cooked the brisket on the flat, the thinner part here, to try to keep a little more moisture retained in that leaner meat. All right, here's our trimmed brisket. Got all the major large fatty deposits out. Didn't separate the point from the flat, but did try to get larger, huge chunks of fat off the sides, carved out. And the bottom, same thing, just carving out larger fatty deposits that you can easily get to, but leaving it intact. And today we got a really simple rub. It's gonna be pretty bold, using a lot of salt and pepper. It's about 80–90% salt and pepper, and just a little bit of cayenne, cumin, and a few tablespoons of celery seed. Find that gives that a nice flavor, and I'll put up the exact recipe right now. All right, so here is our rub down brisket with our bold salt and pepper rub. Some heat from the cayenne, and it's pretty coarse salt and pepper, so generally a little coarser rubs should kind of hold on to a little more smoke as it goes through the process and bring out that smoke flavor. So see how this bad boy turns out. All right, before we throw this brisket on, grab a snack, a couple beers, and go to bed. Let's talk a little brisket theory, or our hypothesis for the rest of this cook. We're gonna throw it on around midnight. Plan is to let it go around 7 hours or so. I'm a habitual late riser, but I think my son will probably wake me up, so we should be good. And at that point, we're most likely gonna wrap in butcher paper, kind of Aaron Franklin style, or, you know, whoever Aaron Franklin learned this from back in the day. I'm sure this started many, many years ago and it's just now obviously famous. And it should retain a little more moisture. Got our water bath or a beer bath below, still kind of steaming the bottom. So I think this should turn out really nice, but as always, we'll make adjustments along the way to get the best results, give it a good rest, cut her open, and hope for the glory, baby. Don't want to forget about the old meat probe there. Good morning. It's a beautiful day here in Des Moines, Iowa. The birds are super loud right now. I don't know if you can hear them. I think they wanted me to get out of bed. They didn't want the brisket to be overdone like last time. So thanks, fellas. Thanks for waking me up. But gorgeous day. And brisket's reading 160. I haven't looked at it yet, but temperature's great. Kind of exactly what I expect. Sometimes they cook way faster than this and for no reason at all, but today it's going pretty smooth. And we'll take a peek, probe it a few times with another temperature probe just to be safe. And then I think we're gonna wrap this baby in some butcher paper. Kind of go with phase 2 of the plan here. All right, let's see what this baby looks like. All right, we've got a nice firm bark on there. So I think we can definitely wrap it. You can still see some of the salt crystals on there, but I like the way it looks. It's got a nice dark bark, which is what I'm really looking for. And let's check a few temperatures. So reading about 155 in the flat. And we're actually like 160 in the point, which is funny. I think the bigger one would be less, but that's why briskets are a mystery. So let's get this baby wrapped and back on the smoker. And this is like the trickiest part of the operation, getting the brisket off without touching it too much, getting it on that butcher paper before we wrap it up. Whew. All right, did it. We're just gonna give it a heavy spritz with our apple cider Coors Light concoction. You can use straight apple cider vinegar. When I said apple cider, this is apple cider vinegar and Coors Light. I misspoke there, as I often do with the vinegar situation. But we're just adding a little more moisture to the package here. This is pretty much straight out of Franklin's book, if you buy his book. And then we carefully wrap. You can probably buy butcher paper big enough now maybe that you don't have to use 2 and make this as complicated as I am, but I've had this roll of butcher paper for a while and I just keep using it. So we've flipped it twice, so we're back on the original side. We just want to cut off the excess. And before we put the brisket back on the smoker, we're just going to do one thing, and that's put a piece of foil down on top of our grate. Now that brisket's pretty much fully cooked, we're just kind of bringing it to tender, tender, rendered, fat, delicious, unctuous brisket. And the first person I saw do this was actually Mo Cason several years ago. And I've never really employed this technique, but I think it makes sense. So I've seen others do it too, similar things since then, but Mo Cason was the first one I've seen do that. I'm not sure who started it. All right, let's get this baby on the smoker. Oh yeah. And we're just gonna probe it right in the center again. And we're looking for around 200 degrees. Now like the work is done. I love that about barbecue. Now you just get the heavy lifting done up front. Now we just wait, and I'm gonna bump it up to 250 just to bring along a little faster. You know, it can take a long time to get those last 40 degrees from 160 to 200. So plan on this being like a mid-afternoon brisket after we rest. That's my goal anyway. So 250 it is from here on out. Have some pool beers and some brisket afterwards. I think it's gonna be a glorious day. Little brisket updated is 1:30 in the afternoon, and it is floating close to 180 at this point. So we've picked up only 20 degrees in the last 5.5 hours. So we're gonna stay the course on this one, but I'm starting to get a little concerned. I did put in a second probe, so they're both right around the same temperature. This is stretching out the length that longer than I would expect at this point for a brisket that after trimmed is probably under 13 pounds trimmed, probably between 12 and 13 pounds. So we'll see how it turns out. It's a good thing we got pool beers today. I know that's gonna be good. The brisket, we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so this cook keeps on getting just a little stranger and a little more mysterious as we go on. We are at 5:30, so we're at 17.5 hours of total cook time. I bumped it up to 275 for the last couple hours, and we're only at 191. And this is in the center of the brisket. The flat was reading lower than that, so this is like this. I'm not even sure what to say about this at this point. Just one of those. Probably it's just a strange kind of brisket maybe, but it's been on 17.5 hours. We're past 190. I don't think it's gonna get any more tender at this point, so I'm gonna pull the ripcord, let her loose. We're gonna rest it, wrap it in foil, put it in a cooler after it sits for a bit, let it rest for a couple hours, and just pray to the brisket gods this thing comes out good, because you've probably been watching this video for like 7 to 10 minutes at this point, I'm guessing, and I've been doing this for almost a full day. So please let this be good. But it's been a beautiful day other than that. It's gorgeous out right now. So let's hope for the best. All right, so it's judgment time now. We're gonna see if this brisket is amazing or was it perhaps a waste of my time for the last day. I'm not sure, but first, I wanna answer a few questions that you might have in the back of your head. Number one, no, I haven't showered since we started the brisket, and this is still the same shirt. I didn't want to have any bad juju, so, you know, had some pool time, no showers, same shirt. We're gonna keep it all the way to the end for this thing to make sure I didn't mess it up just with some bad cosmic decisions. If you've been watching my videos, you know this might be my last cook on the Recteq 700 before I sell it or move it down the road. And I just want to let you know I'm giving it to my brother-in-law. So it'll be a nice grill for him. And he's got 2 kids, so he has no time. It's gonna be great. I'll still see it. I can maybe even do some cooks on it if I want, but we're gonna move on to some things I'm more interested in. But now's the time. It's actually looking kind of good inside. I'm more hopeful than I was. It's actually a pretty good looking brisket inside all that paper. Smells nice too. Ooh. I think the dogs might get some drippings here that fall off. They're circling the area. I think sharks in the water right now. They're excited. So when I'm cutting brisket, I always have 2 slicers in hand. One that's kind of your classic carver. The bark's a little too tough to get through. Then you want something with a little serrated edge just to get through that. So we'll start with the classic and see which one is gonna work best. Classic carver is working pretty good. It's got a nice bark on it, but it's cutting through it. That's actually a pretty fine looking brisket. I gotta say, with how long it was in there, I was getting pretty worried. So I'm thankful. I didn't want to present a waste of time for you and you know, for myself for the last, we're sneaking up on about 20 hours for this brisket start to finish, which is hard to imagine really for not being the largest brisket in the world. All right, so I slice them a little thicker I don't like that skinny brisket. I want to know this is a brisket, not just like a piece of lunch meat, you know? But that's nice. So, whew, still definitely hot, but it's, oh yeah, still warm, but it's pull apart. Whew. Yeah, got to step back from that a little bit. I'm not a big believer in those fancy gloves everyone wears. I mean, I think it's kind of a restaurant thing. I'm here in the backyard. That's nice. That's real nice. Yeah, it's just pulling apart. As long as that took, I'm a little surprised. It's one of the better briskets I've made, really. All right, so we have our flat sliced up there. Now it's time to get in the real deal here. And those are some meaty slabs right there. That's not bad at all. Well, I'm certainly glad I didn't give up on that one. I was seriously worried throughout the whole back half of the cook. The first half was great. Back half to me was really abnormal, but the results speak for themselves. Just nice, unctuous point with all that fattiness, delicious, flat, still tender. I'm glad I left a little more fat on the actual top of that because it's coming through. The smoke flavor on the Recteq 700 is still a little more subtle, but this is a great tasting brisket, and I'm really glad it held up. The moisture inside was really nice, was not dry at all, and I would be happy to serve this to anyone. So feel free to try to use these different little tips and techniques on your own cook. Modify as needed, always change along the way, because you never know what's gonna come up in a 24-hour cook or 18-hour cook in this respect. But I hope you got something out of this, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. I would love to see you here at Seared and Smoked again. You can subscribe right here or check out this playlist with all my favorite cooks of things that have always gone right versus this one, which was kind of sketchy halfway through, but turned out great. So whatever, I'm not complaining. I'm thrilled, and I'm glad we got a good brisket done before we give away the Recteq 700 to my brother-in-law, Tim. Tim, you're gonna love it. All right, let's eat. Let's have a beer. Back. Sit. You guys like brisket? Who doesn't like? You don't like brisket? Who likes brisket? Arlo likes brisket. You say that's like a 9? Booker, come here. Come here, Bookie. Over here. Sit. Oh, you like it? Oh, that's good, right? You say that's overall, that's like a really good brisket, right? Overall, pretty good? All right. Okay. All done.